Welcome, one and all, to Pacific414 episode review. I am your host, Mike.
I'm the dude.
I'm Batman.
I'm your Huckleberry.
I am Boba Fett.
And tonight, I will be giving you my review for Chapter 7 of the Book of Boba Fett, which was titled In the Name of Honor. So, let me just check a few things here that weren't quite cooperating, but they look to be cooperating now. So let's go ahead and get underway with this review for the 7th and final episode of the season for this Mandalorian spinoff, or as I've been calling it, and I know a lot of other people have been calling it, they've been calling it The Mandalorian Season 2.5. So just adjusting the lighting here. There you go. So, In the Name of Honor begins in the remains of Madame Garza's little casino, little spa, and it's Boba Fett, Fennec Shand, the Power Rangers, aka the mods, the Voltron Force, and also, as they're beginning to talk, Din Djarin shows up, and Din Djarin lets them know that the people of Mos Pagos, now known as Freetown, are willing to help, free of charge, of course. And Boba Fett agrees to those terms. After all, wouldn't you? You have people that are willing to help, and they're willing to do it for free. I know I would. So they're all talking. They're trying to come up with a strategy, and Fennec Shand is taking the lead on developing the strategy. When we cut to Cad Bane, and he goes to the Pikes, and he informs the Pikes that the situation in Freetown is taken care of. There won't be any resistance. Nobody will rise against the Pike Syndicate. Cad Vanth and the town of Freetown are too afraid to help. And Boba Fett doesn't even know that the Pikes were the ones responsible for the death and destruction caused at the Tusken village. So we get to the next scene after that one. And it's at Pelimato's repair shop junkyard. And an X-Wing flies in. It lands. Peli's all nervous because she hasn't filed new Republic papers for keeping her license up to date. When out comes Baby Grogu, Baby Yoda, and we see that this decision has been made. Instead of joining Luke, Baby Grogu has chosen to stick with the Mandalorian. Of course, we see R2-D2 there in the astromech spot. He was the pilot of this X-Wing. And of course, you know, it's Luke's X-Wing. It's Red 5. So Peli sees Grogu as she climbs up the ladder. She finds out Grogu's name. She says that's a horrible name. And R2 asks, by beeping and bopping and booping, where Din Djarin the Mandalorian is. And Peli says he's not here. And that's where Peli says, Grogu, that's a horrible name. So then the episode cuts back to Mos Espa. Again, the Mos Espa Casino Spa, Madame Garza's former place of business. It's a shell of its former self after the explosion last week. And this is where Fennec Shand is telling the mods and Boba Fett and Din Djarin, the Mandalorian, where everybody's going to be stationed. The Gamorrean guards are going to be stationed in one area where all the ships land and all, all the people and passengers coming in to Tatooine. And then Dark Xanthan is going to be stationed in another area. And then, of course, the Power Rangers, the Borg wannabes, the Voltron Force are going to be placed in another area. That way they can have a heads up for when the Pikes are about to show up. And Boba Fett says he's fine with that. Meanwhile, Mando and Boba Fett are going to stay in Mos Espa. And there's a reason why they're staying in Mos Espa. But first, Boba Fett walks out of Madame Garza's burnout remains, the burned out place, because he thought he smelled something, and that something is Cad Bane. Cad Bane is there to tell him that he shouldn't expect any reinforcements from Freetown. And he also informs Boba Fett about what happened to the Tusken tribe that he was with. Some words are exchanged. Mando shows himself, points his blaster at him. Nice shot of Cad Bane right there. And Fennec's there too. And this is where Cad Bane lets Boba know what happened to the Tusken tribe. You see Fennec is right behind Boba. Again, words were exchanged. Basically telling Boba and his group they better not try anything because the Pike Syndicate is ready to take over Mos Espa and have the spice run through Tatooine. So the Major Domo comes out, starts talking, and then the Power Rangers, Voltron Force, you name it, they're in trouble because they are under attack. And soon Dark Chrysanthemum is going to be under attack. But the first victims of death in this episode aren't Dark Chrysanthemum. They aren't the Vespa crew, Power Rangers, Voltron Force. They're the Gamorrean guards. They end up falling off this cliff as they are attacked first by one of the houses. And then, of course, the droid comes with the mayor's representative, and the mayor's representative is basically trying to weasel his way out of this situation. But Boba says, no, you're going to negotiate for us. You're going to be our emissary. And okay, so maybe it was the mayor's talking, mouthpiece that was one, but he agrees to go out there. Meanwhile, Fennec agrees to go and help the Vespa crew, the Power Rangers, Voltron Force. She gets on her speeder bike and speeds away to where the mods are. Of course, like I said, they're under attack. Fennec gets there, tells the mod crew to stay low, don't come out of hiding, and Fennec picks off each and every one of these houses one by one who are overwhelming the Vespa's crew. So they show up and they're thinking everything's fine, everything's hunky dory because they're back at Mos Espa. There you see Boba and you can see Mando. Boba and Mando have an exchange. Mando says this is the way, and Boba says, "You really believe in that stuff, don't you?" And Mando says, "Yes, I do." But they're both there. They're both willing to give up their lives and sacrifice themselves just to free everybody in Mos Espa. And this is where the major domo says he'll be the emissary. So Boba gets on a tablet that he's handed by the major domo and writes out his terms. His terms are pretty much get off this planet, leave this planet alone. I'm not surrendering. And that's when the major domo, who's reading it off, realizes what Boba's terms are. And he's like, oh crap. Oh crap. This is from Boba Fett. This isn't from me. So we cut to another scene where Boba and Mando fly in. They start blasting these Pike members, taking them down one by one, and it's an Old West shootout. And Mando's getting hit, Boba's getting hit, and of course they are taking down a few people. And then all of a sudden, when it looks bleak, the people of Freetown show up. We find out that Marshal Vanth is gone in cold blood. So they don't necessarily say he's dead. They just say he was gunned down in cold blood. But you gotta believe that he possibly is dead. If he does end up coming back, we'll probably see that in season 3 of Mandalorian. So the people of Freetown are helping out when all of a sudden trouble arises. And we're not just talking about ordinary trouble, especially with the Vespa crew coming back. We're talking about big trouble ends up coming and really hurting everybody. And you know what's funny is at one point when Dark Sampson is stationed in his location, he gets overtaken by some Trandoshans. And there's also another scene where he's coming back to Mos Espa. He gets shot in the leg several times. He gets shot several times in this episode, and he can barely walk. He's dragging his leg, and at one point, as he's dragging his leg, he gets behind the land speeder, and you see these scorpions or scorponok, as I've been calling them. So, they start firing at this scorponok, but there's only one problem. This scorponok and the other scorponoks, they have ray shields, and their blaster fire isn't penetrating the ray shields. So everybody's firing and they're wasting ammo. They're wasting time firing at these shields that their weapons cannot penetrate. So, there's explosions, there's destruction. They have to fall back and retreat. At one point, Dark Something gets up, starts blasting, and he gets knocked back after he tries to use his electric brass knuckles, his spiked knuckles, and he tries to use the electricity to create a hole in the shield, and he gets knocked back. Well, these two help him back up, these two Power Rangers, Voltron Force members. And at one point, this guy, as they're under fire, he gets up and stops helping Dark Xanthan because they're under fire, but he spins around and starts shooting. Now, I'm sorry. You're in the middle of a firefight and you have enough time to spin around and start shooting. No. You don't have enough time to do that. You're getting shot at. You have to react. So you got to fire back. You're not going to think about spinning around and shooting your blaster. Sorry, that's just dumb. So then Pele comes and she runs into Mando. Mando's telling her, get back, it's too dangerous. And then we see the Scorponok droid. Everybody's still trying to fire at it to no avail. And then everybody has to retreat. Well, leave it up to Vespa woman right here. and one of the members of Freetown, this member of Freetown, and they're the ones that come up with a strategy to get on the roof, and they even take one of the rifles and say, "Cover me," but guess what? None of the Scorponok blaster fire is shooting at them, nor is the Scorponok droid even coming at them. And that's when the barkeep surrenders his rifle. Then here comes Pelly and Mando. Mando's still shooting to no avail. And that's when Mando finds out that Grogu is on Tatooine and with Pelly. And of course, it's not a good time. It's a reunion before season 3 between Mando and Grogu. And of course, Grogu's happy to see Mando. And of course, Mando's happy to see Grogu. Pelly's firing, Mando's firing. They get knocked off. Yeah, the Scorponok droid took care of their chariot. And of course, they're still all in trouble. Everything's going wrong. And they know it. And Boba ends up leaving via his jetpack. You think he's going to get Slave 1? Nah, he's not getting Slave 1. Hey, Punk Waddle, how you doing, brother? Good to see you. And Punk Waddle says, "Hey, Pacific, I actually watched this episode before the weekend, probably just to get it out of the way. I don't blame you. I don't blame you, brother. But anyways, Boba comes back with Godzilla. He comes back with Godzilla. Okay, so it's the Rancor. But the Rancor comes. Boba's riding on top of the Rancor. The Scorponok droid is firing at him. Boba's firing. Again, the shields are up, so nothing's even working. Mando even uses the Darksaber. Doesn't work. Doesn't work. Doesn't penetrate the shield. And you can even see here where the Rancor's got his claws up against the shield, and the shield's holding there steadily. Nothing's happening. That's right. So, Bot, you're gone. Again, the Rancor's trying to penetrate the shield to no avail. And of course, even though he gets one of his claws through, doesn't work. He has to tear off one of the limbs from the Scorponok droid to even cause some damage. Of course, Mando's in trouble. Baby Yoda's looking on. And Baby Yoda's getting ready to use his force powers. But guess what? He can't use them. He's not close enough. So it looks like Mando's gonna see his undoing. Meanwhile, the Rancor, now that the shields are down because it managed to tear off one of the limbs and use it to damage the Scorponok droid, the Rancor is going to town. And Boba Fett, I was about to say Mando, says, "Rip it apart." So that's what the Rancor does. Meanwhile, the other Scorponok droid is still firing at the Power Rangers and the people of Freetown. And these two are up on the roof, and they have their strategy. Well, one of the Pikes gets shot, and those two are up on the roof. They're trying to create a distraction. Shields are still up. And even after they managed to knock the side of this building down onto one of the droids, it's still quite functional. As a matter of fact, it's very...
Oh, how it pains me to do this!
Wait, I still function.
What?
Yep. So, yeah, they're screwed. The Rancor is getting blasted. The Rancor is actually getting injured. And they're looking on like, oh my god. Oh my god. And then, of course, the Rancor is pissed. The Rancor does manage to destroy the Scorponok droid. And the Pikes are still firing. Everybody's firing. It's a shootout, folks. Of course, he's cowering. He's scared. And Pele says, "Get behind me, pretty boy." So he follows Pele. More Pikes come into the scene. And the Rancor starts throwing people around. Then more shots. Rancor smashes one of the Pikes. Then in strolls Cad Bane. And Cad Bane's looking on. Cad Bane could care less about what's going on. He's just there to do a job. And he sees Boba on top of the Rancor. And the Rancor is roaring, screaming, hollering at Cad Bane. Cad Bane uses his flamethrower, and it scares the Rancor. And then Boba is knocked off the Rancor. Boba gets up. And we get some history between Boba and Cad Bane. And one of the things that Cad Bane says to Boba is, "You're not a peacemaker. You're in this line of work. You're just like your father. This line of work is coming back to you." And let's see who else is in the chat. Okay, Punkwaddle says, "I don't want to bring all the bots to the yard." You're not bringing all the bots to the yard, brother. You know, that you know just as well as I do. And I know you're joking. I know you're joking. But you know as much as I do with the streams that you and I both watch. We've seen each other in the chat that the bots are relentless and they're attacking every stream they can. So these two have an exchange, and Bane pretty much challenges Boba Fett to a duel, and Boba's getting his ass whooped. Yes, Boba is getting his ass whooped. So after a while, there's, a knock of Boba's rifle. Boba can't get to it. Cad Bane puts his foot on his right arm, and he taunts him a little bit, tells him he's weak, and he says, "You shouldn't have kept this job. You're weak, and you're, you know what you are? You're a bounty hunter. You're not a peaceful man. You're a bounty hunter. You do jobs. You're an evil man, just like the rest of us." As soon as that stops buffering, of course, Boba's scared for his life. And Punkwaddle says, "Tee hee, comedy is timing." Yes, I know, brother. I know. I know. Yeah, and there we see it. Cad Bane. I mean, I'll give them credit. I will give them credit for the work they did on the effects for Cad Bane to make him look realistic. They did some nice work there. So just when it seems like all is lost, Boba pulls out his gaffy stick, knocks out down Cad Bane, and then he ends up killing Cad Bane. Yep, he kills him, and we get an overhead view of the presumed to be dead Cad Bane. Boba walks away, and then we see the Rancor. But guess what? First, the Rancor is impersonating Godzilla. Then he climbs up on the tower and does his best King Kong impression. So everybody's trying to shoot at the Rancor. Mando gets the crazy dumb idea to actually fly up there and try to deal with the Rancor himself. He even attempts to ride him. Stupid Mando. Yeah, that didn't quite work well. Yeah, first the Rancor tries to eat him. Thanks to that Beskar helmet, it saves his head, and Mando gets thrown down. Yep. Forget Mick Foley or Undertaker being thrown off the Hell in the Cell. Mando gets thrown off the top of a building, top of a tower. Yeah, Mando's hurt. So then Baby Yoda comes in front of the Rancor, and it looks like the Rancor is going to have his first snack. The Rancor's hungry. The Rancor screams, roars at Baby Yoda. Meanwhile, Baby Yoda does his best impression of Captain Picard in Best of Both Worlds. Sleep, Rancor. Sleep. And that's what ends up happening. The Rancor falls asleep. Grogu ends up using all his force powers to put the Rancor to sleep. And then what happens? You think Luke would have trained him to manage his powers better? Nah. Baby Yoda falls asleep right next to the Rancor. So everything's nice and hunky dory. The town of Mos Espa is saved. Fennec and Boba are walking through the streets. Everybody's happy. They're all, yay, you saved the town. You saved the town. Yay, thank you. Thank you. We see the helmets of the stormtroopers on the spears. And again, everybody's happy. Meanwhile, at the Pike Syndicate, the Pike Syndicate leader is giving a rundown of their reconnaissance and, the lack of success for the mission. The mayor's talking to the Pike leader when all of a sudden the mayor is lassoed and pulled up to the top of the ceiling and he's killed. So this guy freaks out, pulls out his blaster. And, well, guess what happens to him? He's killed. So we cut back to Mos Espa. This is where the town folk are cleaning everything up and they're greeting Boba and Fennec, and Boba's complaining about his right arm because he's being saluted, so he's saluting back. And the reason why he's complaining about his right arm is because he was injured in his right arm. But guess who ended up killing those two in the previous scene? Fennec. Yep, she did it. Not Boba. Not Boba. Not the guy who spent the time with the Tuscan tribe. No. It was Nick. That was Boba's kill. That was Boba's term of vengeance. It wasn't Fennec's to take. But they're talking and they're happy, everybody's happy. There you see Black Chrysanthemum. He's just looking at him like, what? And of course, one of the things that Boba was handed was a melon, so he tosses it to Black Chrysanthemum. Chrysanthemum says thanks for the snack, takes a bite. This guy complains about not getting the melon. The Power Rangers are looking on, going, where's our melon? Go get your own. And then they all share a laugh. Ha ha ha. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, real funny. And then we cut to Mando and Grogu. And Grogu keeps banging the knob on the dome here. And Mando says, no, not again. I'm not doing it again. Grogu does it again. Mando says, I'm not doing it again. Grogu does it again. And Mando ends up giving in. Yep. Grogu wanted to go fast. So that's how the episode ends. And to be perfectly honest, ladies and gentlemen, whether you're watching this live or you're watching this after the fact, I have watched this episode twice. I thought maybe watching it a second time would change my original opinion. No, it didn't change my original opinion. This episode's a 2 out of 5. This episode was bad. There were things in this episode, like with the Vespa kids, that were just bad. The writing in this show to start off with the Tuscan tribe, and then Boba, you think, is gonna start making his own mark on his territory, but no. We get 3 episodes with the Tuscans, one with Boba developing his own way, you think, and then we get 2 episodes of The Mandalorian season 3. And then you have this episode, and honestly, this episode wasn't very good. It wasn't very good. And no, I did not believe the rumors when it came to hearing about the possibility about Han Solo and Chewbacca and Princess Leia showing up. No, I did not buy that. I thought that was a load of shit. And Punk Waddle says there wasn't even enough exposition to connect some of the dots or explain why certain things happen. Exactly. You know, I can say this because I've seen all 7 episodes. They didn't have a plan for this series. They never had a plan for this series. And you can tell. You can tell from what we saw in episode 1, what we saw in episode 2, episode 3, episode 4, and then to throw in 2 episodes of The Mandalorian on top of that, they didn't have a plan. And as far as their decision to have Grogu come back to The Mandalorian, that's just stupid. I don't care if it's said in the comics that Ben Solo is Luke's first students. I don't care about that. There are a lot of times where books mean nothing compared to what you see on screen. Comics mean nothing compared to what you see on screen. I was even saying to some friends the other day, before this episode even aired, I said, Grogu's made his decision when you see an X-Wing land. And what ended up happening in this episode? You saw an X-Wing land. This episode, for me, became so predictable because they were relying on tropes. It's like, oh, wait a minute. We need Baby Yoda to save the day. And that's pretty much what Baby Yoda does with the Rancor. He saves the day. It's like, Boba can't do anything for himself. Fennec has to do it. Mando has to do it. The Power Ranger squad has to do it. I mean, I will admit, I've admitted it before. Star Trek was my first love, but I came to love Star Wars. I came to love, the original 6 movies, the games, every little bit of Star Wars I can get my hands on. No, I haven't read all the EU. I mean, with all those books, there's no way I can read them all. I haven't even read the Timothy Zahn Thrawn series, the original one. But this series had no plan, much like the sequel trilogy had no plan. And no, this doesn't cancel the sequel trilogy. Ahsoka will not cancel the sequel trilogy. It won't. None of these series that will be coming out in the Mandoverse, if you want to call it that, will cancel out the sequel trilogy. It's set in stone. Whether we like it or not, whether it's OG fans like it or not, it's set in stone. I'm sorry for the rant, but anybody who's been to this channel before, you have heard me give my rants before. You've heard me during the baseball season rant about the Cubs doing a squat. And don't get me started on Manfred's proposal to actually have a season this year. I'll save that for another video. But it's bad writing. Okay, yes, it was fan fiction. It was literal fan fiction, but I used to write stories. I haven't written stories in a long time, but I used to write stories that I would have people, read them, to go over them and give their honest opinion. And a lot of people liked them. They liked the way I structured the story. They liked how I wouldn't just settle on keep the story to one certain plot point if I didn't feel that plot point didn't connect with the other plot point. But I also got criticism, constructive criticism, and I took that advice to heart. Let's see. Punkwaddle says it's almost like they had filmed the Sand People parts earlier and then decided to go in a completely different direction, but still use the footage instead of scrapping it. Exactly. Exactly. And maybe there is truth to these rumors that there were reshoots because it's evident. You're getting not just one type of show, not just another type of show, but three different types of shows. You're getting the Tuscan part, you're getting the Mando part, and you're getting the Boba part. Three different shows. It doesn't make sense, folks. Not in my eyes. It doesn't make sense. Yeah, this episode's a 2 out of 5. And that's being generous. That is being generous. I could have given it a 1 out of 5. But I'm giving it a 2 out of 5 because there were parts I liked. And one of the parts I liked was seeing Boba and Mando get on their jetpacks, fly up and shoot from the air. But here's my question. Why in the hell do you have Boba going and getting the Rancor when Slave One is sitting there in the parking lot ready to be used? Come on, get Slave One. That thing has firepower. It should have at least some firepower to help penetrate the shields, in my opinion. This series is a mess. And don't tell me, well, Mike, just wait for Obi-Wan. I don't have faith in Obi-Wan right now. I don't care that Ewan McGregor's coming back. I don't care that Hayden Christensen's coming back. I don't have faith in Star Wars anymore. I don't have faith in Star Trek anymore. I don't have faith in Doctor Who anymore. I don't have faith in anything that Hollywood is producing anymore. Well, okay, maybe with one exception, Cobra Kai. But it can't just be one show that makes me go, I still have faith. Or could it? I don't know. I don't know. Because Doctor Who, like I said, I no longer have faith in. Star Trek, I no longer have faith in. Star Wars, I no longer have faith in. Heck, George Lucas himself has said that they taken Star Wars in a direction he wouldn't have taken it, and that he considers the original 6 movies his vision. And he's right. It's like Gene Roddenberry with Star Trek. His vision is the original series and what you saw in the first 2 seasons of Next Generation. Yes, it's still carried into season 3 and season 4 of Next Generation, but I will give the Berman era credit, even though the Berman era does get crap. They did do their due diligence to keep that vision going. Yes, they did bend the rules quite often, but they still kept to Roddenberry's vision. And how hard is it to keep to George Lucas's vision? It shouldn't be hard. That's his creation, his vision. He wrote the book on Star Wars, folks. I know I don't have to tell you that, but he wrote the book. And you don't, go into his book and say, well, I don't like this particular chapter. I don't like this particular book and rewrite it. No, you stick to that vision. You stick to that story that's being told. You stick to the series Bible if there's a series Bible. I don't even know if this series or The Mandalorian or any of the Star Wars TV series that are going to be on Disney Plus even have a show Bible to give you, a brief rundown of what these characters are about. And then, it gives the writers a roadmap and how to expand upon it. I don't know, man. Gosh. And Punkwaddle says because they made sure to have Boba hear the people used to ride the Rancors in the past, which was most exposition we got in the show that panned out. Yeah, true. But here's another thing. We didn't see Boba train to ride the Rancor. You could have done that in episode 5. You could have done that in episode 6. Showed Danny Trejo training Boba Fett on how to not only tame the Rancor so it doesn't attack him, but also learn to ride the Rancor. I would have liked to see that. I don't know that anyone else would have liked to see that. I can't speak for anyone watching this live or watching this after the fact, but I would have liked to see it. It's disappointing to see what Star Wars has become. It's no longer about story. It's about product. It's about constant consume, consume, consume. You will consume this. You will consume that. Heck,